examples. This slide was another one that I mentioned last week, but these are the different types of files that could be in a system that the auditor could use to go get information, right? Inventory master file, that's gonna have a list of all the inventory. As Brandon mentioned earlier today, he was talking about counting things and then comparing that with what they have on hand, maybe, to see what's missing. Accounts receivable master file, you can get the accounts receivable aging from that. Credit check files, again, if we were doing a detective control to see if a customer had exceeded their credit limit, well, we would probably compare what was ordered from the sales order to the customer credit file. Price list master file, we talked about that when we were talking about the wrong prices being on the sales order. We could have automated control. Back order master files, sales detail journal, right? These are all the different types of customer or sales order, shipping documents, packing slips, all the different types of documents that happen or used, files used in this process. All right, so let's talk about these files, right? Because as you mention your controls, you want to make sure that you know the correct file, where you're going, the documents and things like that. So ask yourself, what information can the auditor get from this document, or how can they use it in audit? How can the auditor use a pending order master file? Assuming that all the underlying controls, information processing controls for this master file have already been tested. What information would be on this file? You could get customer address from that, but specifically, what would we go to this file specifically for? Yeah, so remember I talked about the fact that, well, maybe there's a report that you can get from the system that just tells you what hasn't been shipped, right? So pending orders, by definition, is what hasn't been shipped. What about the customer master file? Name, customer address, probably not necessarily all their credit information, because that would be in the credit file. But things like their real name, right? How to spell that name in case a fraudster tries to use their customer account and it's a little bit off, right? So customer information like name, address, and order history. Price list master file, what information is on this particular file? Yes, and so this file, again, when we first started talking about these documents, I said, assume that they've already been tested, meaning the auditor doesn't just assume that every price in the price master file is correct. That's actually part of their audit plan to test the controls underlying that, right? So before I go to the audit and I'm like, hey, let's use the customer or the price list master file. Before that happens, we test the controls underlying the price list master file to make sure that it's pulling correct prices, that the discount rates are correct, things like that. But yeah, the most up-to-date price information. What's going to be on the sales detail journal? This is going to be a really important one when we get into substantive testing. All the journal entries, all the recorded sales, the detail of every single sale, right? That's going to be, and that's when we start tracing and vouching, that's one of the proxy documents that we use for the financial statements, the sales account, right? Because that's going to feed directly into the financial statements. Very good. Sales order. Again, these are all documents. What you do with them could be either a test of control or substantive test. But the sales order is the authorized document or electronic document that contains all the sales ordering information from the customer recorded by the sales associate. Shipping documents, what type of information would be on these documents? Would the customer name be on these documents? Customer address? Quantity of items shipped? Would the quantity of items ordered be on this document? No. The quantity of items shipped will be on there. The quantity of items ordered would be on the sales order. Now, should those two things be the same? Yes, they should absolutely be the same. But again, no assumptions. That's why the auditor compares one to the other. Because if they are different, that would represent a problem. If it's a big problem, it could be a material problem, right? So the auditor doesn't assume that if I wanted to know what items were ordered, I wouldn't go to the shipping documents, because technically that tells me what items were shipped, not what was ordered. I would go to the sales order for items ordered. What document would I go to know the price of items ordered? Well, how would I know what was ordered though? What document would I go to if I could only choose one to know the price of items ordered? What document would I go to find out the price of items ordered? The sales order. Yeah, because I need to know what was ordered and what was the price of that's where you get that information, right? So yes, you could say, shouldn't that information be the same? Yes, but you're professionally skeptical auditors. You don't assume that it is. So you don't go to the shipping document to get ordering information. Should it be the same? Yeah, but that's not the document you go to, right? So that's why it's important to know what these documents are and what's on it, right? Because I'm not going to go to the shipping documents to get price information. If I just wanted to know the price of an item, I would go to the price master file. If I wanted to know the price of an item that was shipped, well, you go to a couple of documents. If I wanted to know the price of an item that was ordered, I would go to the sales order. What information is going to be on the sales invoice? Customer name be on the sales invoice? Customer address? What else? Not the sales amount, but the price of the items invoiced? Yes. The quantity of items invoiced? Yes. Should that be the same as the quantity of items on the sales order? Yes. But we'll start talking about a three-way match soon, right? That's how the auditor or either the client ensures that that information is the same. You cannot assume it is. You have to do something to do it. So items invoice, the price of the items invoice, who was invoiced, that information would be in the invoice. Credit check file is going to have a log or history of all the credit checks that were run and who they were run for, what the results of those credit checks were. Accounts receivable, aging, or listing. Also one of those documents we're going to use a lot when we're tracing and vouching, because this is going to be a proxy for the accounts receivable accounts receivable account on the financial statements. What's going to be listed on the accounts receivable listing? It's going to be a list of all the accounts that those customers still owe the client money, right? Typically, it's going to be in what's called aging buckets. So 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, 90 plus days. Who owes the audit client how much they owe, things like that. That's the aging part with the buckets, by the way. Very good. I'm glad Anthony mentioned it that way, because we're also going to talk about confirmations in this chapter, but a lot in the next chapter when we talk about the accounts payable listing and something called a zero confirmation. Anyway, and again, because as Jose mentioned, cash is in this chapter too, but we're not going to talk about it until 2 weeks later. But a cash receipts listing, right? That's going to have a list of all the customer payments that were received, right? When we get into that chapter, we'll talk about, well, how does the customer payment get from the mailroom to recorded on this listing? What controls have to happen? What policies and procedures have to occur, right? But this is a list of all the cash receipts journal. Very good.